As Martin Luther King once said, returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Troy Davis, Cameron Willingham, and Gary Graham, these are the names of some who died because of the death penalty, but were later proven innocent. Every day a state executes someone to death as punishment for a crime, and sometimes for acts that should not be punished. In some countries, this penalty may be imposed for drug-related offenses, while in others it is reserved for acts of terrorism and murder. One of the people to be punished with death penalty could be a friend, a family member, or even someone like you. Therefore, my position is as follows. The death penalty should be abolished in all countries where it is permitted. Today, I would like to talk to you about first, the death penalty is not an error-free procedure. Second, the death penalty does not have a deterrent effect on crime. And finally, the death penalty violates the rights of the human person. So, I will start by telling you that the death penalty is not an error-free procedure. No justice system is immune to error. The death penalty is irreversible, and mistakes are often made. Thus, executing a person is a final and irrevocable act, and the risk of executing innocents can never be ruled out. In the United States, 150 people sentenced to death have been acquitted, but in some cases, acquittal arrived when they had already been executed. In addition, it is impossible to guarantee that new evidence will not emerge in the future to prove the innocence of the person executed. For instance, David Spence was executed for rape. After his death, two witnesses recanted their statements by explaining that the police offered them benefits in exchange for blaming him. I am sure you can see the first reason why it is necessary to abolish the death penalty. Innocent deaths have no justification. However, you may think that the death penalty guarantees safety in society. Let me tell you that the death penalty does not have a deterrent effect on crime. There is no evidence that countries that apply the death penalty have a low crime rate. On the contrary, in many of the countries where the death penalty has been abolished, crime rates have decreased. In 2006, 30 years after Canada abolished the death penalty for ordinary crimes, the murder rate had dropped by more than a third. In other words, the death penalty does not prevent criminality. Rather, it is a cruel punishment that implicitly legitimizes the use of violence by the state. Therefore, the death penalty does not contribute to a safer society for all citizens. In the same way, the death penalty generates more anguish and perpetuates the cycle of violence. The families of those condemned to death share the psychological torment of knowing that the execution can take place at any time, and they suffer enormous pain when it finally takes place. Society must affirm life, not extinguish it. You can see that the death penalty is not effective in reducing crime or violence. Now, let's look at the implications that this practice has on the human being and a possible solution for it to be eradicated. So, the death penalty violates the rights of the human person. Amnesty International maintains that the death penalty constitutes a violation of human rights, especially or in particular the right to life and the right not to be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. These two rights are consecrated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Sadly, in many of the cases recorded by Amnesty International, executions were carried out following unfair trials in which evidence obtained under torture was used and adequate legal aid was not provided. Thus, the justice system must be designed to correct the criminal nature that characterizes some people in our society, but under ethical and moral principles that do not infringe upon the rights of the individual. On the other hand, we cannot be the arbiters of who lives and who dies. Instead of implementing the death penalty, it would be better to consider life imprisonment, since, in this sense, justice and, at the same time, the fundamental rights of the human being are preserved. As you can see, the death penalty is not the best option to carry out a criminal punishment in any justice system and in any social context. I have told you that the death penalty is not an error-free procedure. The death penalty does not have a deterrent effect on crime. And finally, the death penalty violates the rights of the human person. That is why the death penalty should be abolished in all countries where it is permitted. What if the next person to be punished with the death penalty is someone you love? Imagine your mother being blamed for a crime she didn't commit. Think of the sadness that her innocent death would bring. In this sense, life imprisonment will provide the time needed to prove someone's innocence. I want to leave you with a short message from Desmond Tutu. He said, "The abolition of the death penalty is making us a civilized society. It shows we actually doing business when we say we have reverence for life." This is all. Thank you for your attention.